I was never a morning person. My routine was brutally simple: groan at the alarm, stumble to the bathroom, and attempt to rouse myself with a shower that invariably ended up either too hot or too cold. This morning was no different, or so I thought. Steam fogged the mirror, and I was just about to towel off when I heard a strange sound. At first, I assumed it was the pipes again. My old house groaned and creaked like it was haunted. But this was different. It was a low hum, quiet but persistent, vibrating through the walls. It grew louder, impossible to ignore. I wrapped the towel tighter around my waist, glancing around. Had I left the TV on? No, I hadn't even turned it on today. I stepped into the small living room, expecting to find a malfunctioning appliance. And then it happened. Right in the middle of my apartment, between the coffee table and my worn-out sofa, two shimmering figures appeared out of nowhere. They didn't walk through the door. They didn't teleport like in some sci-fi movie. They simply materialized, the air around them warping and swirling like light passing through a prism. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. I clutched the towel like a life raft. The figures were humanoid, almost perfectly so, like sculptures crafted by someone obsessed with symmetry. Their skin was smooth, silver metallic, reflecting the light of my apartment like living mirrors. They were identical in every way, the same height and build, slender, with large, almond-shaped eyes that glowed faintly. Their faces were unnervingly beautiful, yet utterly expressionless. That's all I could manage, standing there in a barely held-together towel as these alien twins hovered a few inches above the floor. Their heads tilted simultaneously. Their expressions remained unreadable, but I sensed their confusion. They didn't speak immediately, just stared at me, their silver eyes scanning me like some malfunctioning security camera. I couldn't decide what was worse: standing naked in front of them, or the fact that they were clearly as bewildered by me as I was by them. One of them blinked, or at least I thought it did. It was hard to tell for sure, because their eyes were so unusual, like molten silver without pupils. However, the other one took a step forward, gliding over the carpet. Excuse me," I finally stammered, my voice trembling. "Who, or what, are you?" The two aliens exchanged glances, or at least I assumed they did, because they moved in perfect synchronicity, as if controlled by a single mind. Then, in a voice that made me shiver, they spoke, not individually, but in unison. "We are Nara and Vara. We did not intend to intrude upon your moment of vulnerability." Their voices were melodic, soft yet powerful, echoing in my head rather than my ears. It felt like their words bypassed my ears and went straight to my brain, leaving behind a strange vibrating sensation. I stared at them, still clinging to my towel, vulnerable. Well, that's an understatement. Nara, or maybe Vara, I couldn't tell, extended a hand, as if offering it to me. "Our arrival here was unintentional," she said. "We miscalculated the phase shift. This situation is an undesirable outcome." An undesirable outcome? I'm standing here in a towel, and you just materialized in my living room. What kind of undesirable outcome is that? I didn't get to finish my sentence before Nara or Vara stepped forward, their hand glowing with a strange soft light. "We must rectify this. You were not meant to perceive us in this state. It will only cause further complications." "Wait, what do you mean, rectify? What further complications?" I protested, taking a step back. But it was too late. The glowing hand reached for me, and before I could react, the room was engulfed in a blinding flash of light. It was like an explosion of pure energy, overwhelming in its intensity. The light wasn't painful, but it was suffocating, and I saw nothing but white. Everything around me felt warped and altered, my vision blurred, my thoughts heavy, and I lost all sense of where I was. It was like falling through space and time, disorientation and helplessness. And then, as suddenly as it began, the light vanished. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the floor, my towel miraculously still in place. My living room was exactly as it was before, down to the clutter on the coffee table. But the alien twins were gone. No shimmering figures, no strange hum, just silence. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream, but then a throbbing pain in my head reminded me otherwise. Something definitely happened, something unnatural. I tried to get up, but my body felt strange, different. I felt everything, every creak in the walls, the vibrations of traffic outside, the faint hum of electricity in the air. And then, without warning, I heard it. Voices, faint, distant whispers. But they were in my head. I froze. The voices weren't mine. They were thoughts, emotions, flickering in my consciousness like static on an old radio. I could feel them, hear them, even though there was no one there. Damn it. I stumbled towards the mirror on the wall, hoping maybe I could shake this off, but as I stared at my reflection, I felt it intensifying, the whispers growing louder, and then, just as I started to panic, they reappeared. The alien twins stood in my living room, materializing again without a ripple. "You are linked," Vara said, her voice calm but urgent. "We did not intend for this to happen." "Linked?" I croaked, my voice trembling. "What does that mean?" Nara stepped forward, her glowing eyes mirroring my panic. "Our presence in your vulnerable state caused a psychic link, a Zixin link. Your mind is now open to us, and ours to you. We cannot undo it." I blinked, trying to process what she'd said. "So you're saying that because you saw me, well, we're now telepathically linked?" Both nodded in perfect unison. "Great," I muttered, slumping onto the sofa. "Just great." But before I could even begin to process this unbelievable new reality, a wave of emotion washed over me, sharp and overwhelming, like a sudden attack of fear. But it wasn't my fear. It was theirs. Something had happened. I sat on the sofa, trying to make sense of everything that had just happened. The alien twins, the psychic link, the voices in my head. It felt like the universe decided my life was a joke, and I was the punchline. I looked at Nara and Vara, still standing in the middle of my living room, their silver figures glowing faintly in the dim light. Their expressions, if you could call them that, were blank, but I felt a storm of emotions churning beneath the surface. Thanks to this link they'd unintentionally created, their thoughts were seeping into my mind, leaving me with a sense of unease that wasn't entirely my own. "What exactly did you do to me?" I asked, my voice unsure. The whole situation was surreal, and I was trying desperately not to have a panic attack. Nara and Vara exchanged glances again, perfectly in sync, and then Vara stepped forward, her tone calm but insistent. "We regret the breach. The Zixin link is not something we intended to form. Our kind is wary of such connections, but the sight of you in your natural state caused a breach. Your mind was open, and we were unable to reverse it." "Okay," I said slowly, still processing the information. "But what does that mean? What exactly is this link?" Nara spoke. "A Zixin link is a psychic connection that allows two or more minds to communicate telepathically. It's rare among our kind, used only for the most intimate exchanges of knowledge. Your mind is now linked to ours. You will hear our thoughts, feel our emotions. We will hear yours." I stared at them, my heart pounding. "So I'm basically stuck in a three-way telepathic conversation with you two, forever." "Not forever," Vara corrected. "But the link is difficult to sever. It may take cycles of your solar system's Earth rotation." "You mean years?" I groaned, covering my face with my hands. "Years of this?" As if sensing my mounting frustration, I suddenly felt a wave of calmness wash over me, soothing as a warm breeze. It wasn't my own emotion, it was theirs. They were trying to calm me, and surprisingly, it worked. I took a deep breath, the panic receding, allowing me to think clearly again. "Okay," I said, straightening up. "Psychic link, got it. But I still don't understand why this happened. Just because you saw me, well, you know. The twins' glowing eyes flickered, and I sensed embarrassment from them, which was odd, considering they didn't look like beings capable of feeling embarrassed about anything. Nara spoke cautiously. In your most vulnerable state, your mental barriers were weakened. We made contact with you at that precise moment, and the link was established. Basically, it's because you were naked, Vara stated bluntly. I groaned. Of course, my luck. I was about to ask more questions when another wave of emotion washed over me. This time, it wasn't calmness. It was fear, sharp, cold fear that clenched my chest and accelerated my pulse. But it wasn't my fear. It was theirs. I jumped up from the sofa. What's happening? Why are you afraid? Nara and Vara's eyes widened, their silver skin flickering with thin pulses of light. They are approaching, Nara whispered, her voice filled with panic. Who's approaching? I demanded, cold sweat breaking out on my skin. But before they could answer, a loud hum filled the room. The very air felt thicker, saturated with energy I couldn't see but definitely felt. It vibrated in my bones, making my skin crawl. Then, out of nowhere, the lights in my apartment started flickering, dimming and brightening in a frantic, irregular rhythm. We are being hunted, Vara said quickly, her voice hardening with urgency. There are others, hunters, who are searching for us. We did not expect them to find us so quickly. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd already come to terms with being psychically linked to two alien beings, but now we were being pursued by a dangerous alien collective. This day couldn't possibly get any worse. Can't you just, I don't know, disappear again? I asked, my voice laced with despair. It's not that simple, Vara replied, looking around the room. Our shape-shifting abilities are limited. We've already expended too much energy. They will track us through the residual energy signatures we leave behind. We need time to recover, but they are closing in. As if on cue, the hum intensified, and the walls of my apartment began to shimmer, faintly at first, but growing stronger. It was like reality itself was warping, bending around the energy building in the air. My instincts screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to run. Is there anything we can do? I asked, feeling increasingly helpless. Nara's gaze locked onto mine, her silver eyes shining brighter. The Zixin link has given you access to our abilities, our knowledge. We must use this link together. We can amplify our strength. Amplify our strength? How? I asked, my thoughts racing. The link allows us to share our abilities with you, Vara explained quickly. Telepathy is only one aspect, but there are other forces, latent abilities within you that can be unlocked. We need to use them. I was about to protest, to say that I had no abilities, latent or otherwise, but before I could utter the words, Nara raised her hand. I felt a sudden surge of energy, like a jolt of electricity coursing through my veins. My vision blurred for a second, and then I suddenly saw the room differently. Everything was sharper, clearer, as if I was seeing beyond the physical. The shimmering walls weren't just an optical illusion. I felt the energy in them, pulsing like a heartbeat. We need to focus, Nara said, her voice calm but firm. The Zentari are strong, but with our combined strength, we may be able to hold them off long enough to escape. Escape to where? I asked, still trying to adjust to the new sensation overwhelming my senses. There is an ancient vessel, Vara said, her eyes shining brighter. It is hidden beneath your city. We detected it when we arrived. It has been dormant for centuries, but with the Zixin link, we believe we can activate it. A spaceship under my city. I repeated, blinking in disbelief. Are you serious? Yes, they said in unison. But we must hurry. The Zentari will be here any moment. The weight of the situation crashed down on me like a ton of bricks. I was now psychically linked to two alien fugitives, pursued by a terrifying alien collective, and the only way out was to find an ancient spaceship buried beneath the city. I had no idea how I was supposed to help them, or how to control the strange new abilities they claimed I possessed. But one thing was clear. I had no choice. "All right," I said, swallowing hard. "Let's get out of here." Nara and Vara nodded, their faces as unreadable as ever, but I felt their urgency, their fear, and somewhere deep inside, I felt something else, a glimmer of hope. As we headed towards the window, the hum in the air intensified, the walls warping and bending even more. I felt the Zentari closing in. Time was running out. Without a word, Nara pointed to the window, and with a flick of her hand, the glass shattered, crumbling like dust. The cold night air rushed into the apartment, sending a shiver down my spine. I looked down, realizing we were on the 5th floor. "Don't worry," Vara said, sensing my hesitation. "We won't let you fall." Before I could protest, they grabbed my hands and climbed out the window, pulling me with them. The wind whipped around us, but I didn't feel myself falling. Instead, we were enveloped in a shimmering force field, holding us in place as we gently descended to the ground. As my feet hit the pavement, I glanced back at my apartment, wondering if I'd ever see it again, but there was no time for reflection. The chase was on the moment my feet touched the cold sidewalk in front of my house. Reality felt fractured. My life had gone from ordinary to unimaginable in a matter of hours. Nara and Vara, the alien twins with their shimmering silver skin, were now fugitives, and I was caught in the middle, linked to them by a psychic connection that had somehow made me a target. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice barely audible above the frantic beating of my heart and the swirling energy in the air. The street was unnervingly quiet, the usual city noise swallowed by an ominous tension. Vara turned to me, her large glowing eyes reflecting the dim light of the street lamps. "We must reach the vessel," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "It is buried beneath your city, dormant for centuries, but now, with the Zixin link, we can activate it. It's our only chance." I looked around the dark, empty street. How are we supposed to get to a buried spaceship? And how did it even end up under the city? Nara moved closer, her hand lightly touching mine. The connection between us flared again, and for a moment, I saw flashes of images. Alien worlds, ancient battles, the ship falling from the stars, crashing to Earth centuries ago. It had been hidden ever since, waiting for someone to awaken it. "It was abandoned during an ancient war," Nara explained, her voice soft, as if the memory pained her. "We detected its energy signature when we first arrived here. The vessel is located beneath an old subway station, long forgotten by your people. If we can reach it, we can evade the Zentari." I swallowed, trying to process everything I just heard. I had no idea who the Zentari were, but from the flashes of emotion I was picking up from Nara and Vara. They were bad news, very bad news. "What happens if we don't reach the vessel in time?" I asked, a sinking feeling in my gut telling me I already knew the answer. Nara's eyes darkened. "If they capture us, they will drain us of our knowledge, our life force, until nothing remains. They will do the same to you." "Great," I muttered under my breath, adrenaline surging into my system. The pressure's not letting up. Without wasting a second, we ran through the darkened streets, the wind whipping around us as we raced through the city. Around every corner, behind every shadow, I expected to see the Zentari, these mysterious, terrifying creatures emerging from the darkness, ready to hunt us down. But for now the streets were empty, too empty. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the rhythmic thud of our footsteps on the pavement. My mind was a whirlwind of panic and confusion, and the psychic link I now shared with the twins fueled me with flashes of their emotions. Waves of fear, urgency, and despair that only amplified my own. As we rounded a corner, a strange hum filled the air, intensifying with each step. I felt the vibrations in my chest, a low, ominous pulse that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. Nara and Vara stopped abruptly, their eyes scanning the sky. "They're here," Vara whispered, her voice filled with terror. I looked up, following their gaze, and my stomach dropped. High above us, descending from the sky, were dark figures, black angular shapes resembling twisted shadows against the night sky. Their forms were irregular, constantly shifting, as if they were made of pure darkness, yet solid. As they drew closer, I saw more details. Their armor was smooth and alien, their faces sharp and angular, with glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce the very air. "Zentari," I breathed, my pulse skyrocketing with terror. Without warning, one of the Zentari lunged forward, diving through the air towards us. It moved incredibly fast, a blurry streak of black and red, and before I could react, Nara grabbed my hand and pulled me aside, just as a blast of energy seared the ground where we'd just been standing. "Run!" Nara yelled, her voice cracking with panic. We sprinted down a narrow alleyway, my heart hammering in my chest as I heard the whoosh of the Zentari closing in behind us. The air around us was thick with energy, crackling and warping with every step. I felt it building through the psychic link, Nara, and Vara's urgency, and now something else, something darker. The Zentari were hunting us like prey. "What do we do?" I gasped, trying to keep up with the twins. I felt their despair through the link, but there was something else, I couldn't quite place it, something they weren't telling me. "We fight," Vara said, glancing back at me. Her eyes flashed with determination. "Fight," I yelled, nearly tripping over a garbage can as we weaved through the narrow alleyways. "How are we supposed to fight these things? I don't even know how to use this link, or whatever it is." Vara's voice was sharp as she glanced back at me again. "You don't need to know how. The link is instinctual. You just need to focus. Let the link guide you." I had no time to ask what that meant as we burst out of the alleyway into a wider street. The Zentari were on us. One of them swooped down, its red eyes blazing brighter as it extended a sharp claw towards us. I froze, my mind screaming at me to move, but my body wouldn't respond. And then, out of nowhere, Nara threw herself in front of me, raising a glowing hand. There was a surge of energy, a flash of light that sent the Zentari reeling backward. Nara stumbled but quickly recovered, grabbing my hand and pulling me forward. "You can do it." I felt the energy inside me, like a live wire buzzing beneath my skin, but I had no idea how to control it. The Zentari were gathering, their angular forms shifting as they hovered above us, preparing for another attack. "Focus on the link," Vara urged, her voice echoing in my mind. "You have the power. You just need to let it flow through you." Easier said than done, I thought, but there was no time to hesitate. I felt the Zentari closing in, their cold predatory minds touching mine through the link. They were relentless, and they wouldn't stop until they had us. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes for a moment, and tried to focus on the strange energy coursing through my body. It felt alien, yet familiar, as if it had always been there, just waiting for the right moment to awaken. And then it clicked. I opened my eyes just as another Zentari lunged at me. This time, instead of freezing in fear, I raised my hand, instinct guiding my movements. A blast of light erupted from my palm, striking the Zentari with a force that surprised even me. The creature let out a piercing shriek as it was flung backward, crashing into the side of a building before dissipating into a cloud of black smoke. Holy crap, I did it. Before I could even process what had just happened, Nara and Vara were already moving, dragging me towards an old, rusty gate at the end of the street. I stumbled along behind them, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "Is this the entrance?" I gasped, looking at the gate, which looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. "Yes," Vara replied quickly, reaching out to the gate. "The vessel is beneath the old subway tunnels. We must get inside before the Zentari recover." I glanced up at the sky. The remaining Zentari were circling above us, their red eyes burning with rage. We had little time. Vara placed her hand on the gate, and I felt a wave of energy pass through the air. The rusty metal groaned, and then with a loud clang, it swung open. Without invitation, we rushed inside, descending a narrow, crumbling staircase that led into the depths of the abandoned subway tunnels. The air was thick with dust and the smell of damp concrete. The only light came from the faint glow emanating from Nara and Vara's bodies as they led us deeper into the tunnel. My heart was still pounding wildly, and my hands were shaking from the surge of power I'd just unleashed. I couldn't believe what I'd done. I'd knocked an alien creature out of the sky with a flick of my wrist. It was unbelievable, but there was no time to celebrate. "The vessel is close," Nara said, her voice steady but insistent. "Once we're inside, we can activate its systems and escape." I nodded, though I wasn't entirely sure what I was agreeing to at this point. I was just trying to survive. We reached the end of the tunnel, and there, half buried under layers of debris and rusty metal, was the ship. It was enormous, its sleek alien design unlike anything I'd ever seen. Even in its dormant state, I felt the power emanating from it, a low hum vibrating through the ground beneath my feet. "That's it," I whispered. "Us do," Vara said, stepping forward. "But we need your help to activate it." "How am I supposed to do that?" I asked, my voice trembling. Nara turned to me, the glowing eyes softening. "The Zixin link has bonded you to us. You have access to the vessel's systems through that link. Place your hand on the control panel, and it will respond to you." I swallowed, nodding as I approached the ship. My heart pounded in my chest as I reached out, my hand trembling slightly, and as soon as my fingers touched the cold metallic surface of the ship, I felt a wave of energy surge through me, stronger than before. My mind exploded with images, alien symbols, star charts, systems I couldn't even begin to comprehend. It felt like the ship was speaking to me, guiding me. I took a deep breath and focused, allowing the energy to flow through me. The ship responded instantly. Lights flickered, systems hummed, and the ground beneath us trembled as the vessel began to power up. "We're doing it," Vara said, her voice filled with relief. But just as the ship's engines rode to life, the air around us crackled with dark energy. The Zentari had found us, and they weren't going to let us go without a fight. The hum beneath my feet intensified as the ancient alien ship powered up, sending vibrations through the floor of the old subway tunnel. Lights flickered with a soft, pulsing rhythm, like a giant metallic beast awakening from a deep sleep. I felt the ship responding to me, not just through my hand on the control panel, but through the Zixin link. The connection I shared with Nara and Vera pulsed with energy, coursing through my body like a second heartbeat. It was both terrifying and exhilarating, but as the ship came alive, so did the danger. A dark crackling of energy ripped through the air, and the low hum that had filled the tunnel was replaced by a deafening roar. I turned to the entrance, my stomach plummeting. The Zentari had arrived, and they weren't letting us go.